inVantage Lightbulb Series. Today we are with Jen Guzman, Vice President of Client Experience with EmPower HR. Can't wait to hear more from her in just a little bit. Today we're focusing on topics that are really identified in the implementation of EOS. When I'm working with clients and we are working through the implementation of these 6 key components that you see here on the screen, we actually start with the people component first. Having the right people in the right seats is critical in achieving any of these other elements. You can't achieve a great vision without great people. You have to be able to hold people accountable. Therefore, you have to have the right people who can fulfill the needs. So we hit the hard stuff first, which is always the people stuff. We also then work with clients to eventually be able to put really strong processes in place. And we're not talking about a 700-page SOP manual that nobody will ever read, but really documenting those key components of what are most critical processes to be followed by all. So that's what led us to talking with Jen today, is everything she does at EmPower HR has to do with strengthening the people components and the processes of an organization. So Jen, thank you so much for being with us today. The group wants to hear a little bit, but why don't we take it from the top? Tell the group a little bit about what does EmPower HR do?
Yeah, Kelly, thanks so much for having me this afternoon. EmPower HR provides HR outsourcing support to small to middle market businesses. So what does that mean? It's everything soup to nuts, from payroll, benefits, and HR administration on through strategic HR support as well. So the way I like to think of it is, the HR person down the hall may not be physically in your office, but we are always a phone call or an email away. So becoming an extension of a small to middle market business's leadership team or HR team, if you will. So providing all of that people support.
Fantastic. I know, having been an HR leader for years in my career, having those extra arms and legs or during periods of startup and transition would have been wonderful to have some of those extra services. Let's hear a little bit about you specifically. Talk a little bit about your journey to joining EmPower HR. Tell us about your background a little bit.
Yeah, so it's funny because I called myself a reformed HR person to you when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, and I also have an HR background. I practiced HR for quite a long time. I started at a corporate law firm here in Chicago. Also worked in Los Angeles in the startup world, and then worked for a large family-owned business here in Chicago as well. So I've seen sort of all different perspectives of HR. I joined EmPower HR almost 6 years ago, and really because of the culture, right? I really loved the purpose-driven organization, the culture and the movement that we were building here around really supporting small to middle market businesses. And ultimately, while the how is through unmatched HR or human capital services, it's really, we are delivering what matters to the small to middle market business community. And it's been an amazing ride. So I actually started in sales for a couple of years, just kind of getting my feet wet and trying to build out a market here in Chicago. And then started as the lead of client experience almost 4 years ago to really build an infrastructure around how do we understand what matters to our clients and then build our services around delivering those services to them. So it's been an awesome ride and an awesome evolution to what client experience means for EmPower HR.
Absolutely. When I think about the types of clients you work with, you talked about the small and the middle market. That's very much where EOS plays in the market as well. And some of the things that we see happen as we're going through the implementation, and we create what's called the accountability chart, which is a different view of the org chart. And I know your organization runs on EOS as well. And in the model, we really focus on building the roles first and then adding the people to them. And almost every time, as we look at companies who have either hit a growth ceiling or struggling to, get to that next level of revenue, maybe their leadership team's a little dysfunctional, almost inevitably, it's at that point where HR is still housed with somebody else's other duties as assigned, as we call it. So whether it's the controller that's, assumed, or the office manager, or in some cases it's the CEO, right, that have all assumed these responsibilities. And it's really an early indicator for us that it's time to look at augmenting the team with some expertise. What are some of the types of problems you see Empower HR solve inside clients when you arrive and you're really one of those first HR teams they've ever had? What are some of those problems you see that you can root out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kelly. And I think the fact that you put it really well is you have someone in the role that's actually not an HR practitioner, right? And the organization at that time is either experiencing growth or trouble, is the way we like to look at it. So you have, for instance, a small business that's looking to double or triple in size year over year. They need a talent attraction strategy, a talent retention strategy. Let's say they're in a competitive market space, they're turning over talent, they are not able to grow because they don't have the right talent, right? And they're not keeping the right talent. And that's simply because you don't have someone who's built that strategy. So that's one view from a growth perspective. From a trouble perspective, the example that you gave of maybe an office manager or a CEO or an accountant handling HR or the people challenges in an organization, and you're not in compliance, and all of a sudden you have an employee relations issue that just goes sideways, right? So a lot of times we'll see that people are more likely to change when they feel some sort of pain. So that's what we call that trouble mode. They've gotten a lawsuit, or they haven't filed their EEO-1 reporting and they've gotten a fine as a result. So once a business leader sees, oh my gosh, this is costing me money or it's costing me talent, now I need to plug in human resources. So that's typically when we start an engagement, and we see it as a challenge, and we see it as an opportunity to help that organization really up their game and level up on their people strategy and initiatives to then take their business to the next level.
Well, I would imagine then some of those organizations where it's their first HR team may not need a full-time HR manager on staff. A lot of them might not even be able to afford them in the early days, right? They have to have this fractional component, if you will, of having somebody come in. How does EmPower structure itself from, for those clients that may not need a full-time HR resources, but need something?
Yeah, and so the team structure is so that's what the client experience role or the function does in the organization. So my team serves as a client experience lead. That's really building a great relationship with the business leader to understand what matters and what the priorities are. And they're accountable for the overall success of the partnership. Then they're assigned an HR business partner who is either handling foundational or more HR infrastructure, so around compliance and job descriptions and policies, or they can handle everything soup to nuts. I always use that term and I beat myself up about it in the strategic realm, right? So building that talent attraction and retention strategy, succession planning, performance management, training and development. But then more importantly, how are they taking care of their people? So you would have the client experience lead and the HR person, business partner really working with the leadership team within the client, but then who's taking care of the people? We have built out an employee care team structure, and I call it employee experience. So we seek to create amazing interactions every time an employee calls to say, I need to change my 401k percentage. I need to enroll in benefits. I've had a death in the family. What's bereavement leave? So they'll call that dedicated phone number and have that person take on that employee interaction so that they're not spending time going to the CEO or the CFO or the controller or the office manager asking those questions. And that's where we've seen the bulk of the value is helping small to middle market businesses take care of their people challenges, the transactional items of HR that are usually sometimes a time suck.
Oh yeah. It's amazing how quickly those things can derail a day, right? The HR stuff that pops up is not something that usually can wait. Right? It's really urgent, and I call it like you have the bat phone, right? Somebody calls you and you're at the other end of it. An analogy I'll draw is I'm working with a company that's implementing EOS, and they're a smaller organization. They're about 25 employees. And we went through the exercises of right people, right seat. So helping them evaluate, first define what's the right kind of person for their unique organization. What are their core values that people are measured against and expected to follow from a behavior? And then we talk about something called get it, want it, and capacity to do it, GWC, which really is the right fit component.
Yeah.
12 people out of 25 were not in the right seat or weren't the right people. Combination. When you're looking and staring at about 50% of your team needing to have some movement, that was a catalyst for them to start thinking we probably need to look at an HR strategy. So I can appreciate, the full set of services you're looking at EmPower. It's not just the transactional compliance pieces, but it is that talent retention, engagement, and whatnot, making sure they've got the foundation to start taking the actions they need to, because that's going to be quite the undertaking. And as an EOS implementer, we don't do that necessarily for the clients. We create the connections with people like you and organizations like yours.
Right. And that's exactly it. And I think that the challenges, and you've been in HR, right? So a lot of times HR has gotten the stigma of being just a cost center, right? Like, are you really a business partner or are you just a cost center? And so HR, whether it's outsourced or internal, you're always striving to be a value add to the organization. So I think honing in on, hey, people are your greatest asset, but they're also your greatest challenge. You have to have a strategy around how you're going to manage those people and also take them to the next level and get them to elevate as well. So yeah, that's a great point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are some other symptoms a company might be experiencing when it's time to call an EmPower HR? What are some of the things they might be seeing happen in their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we also do a lot of our clients, probably about 20% or so come from private equity firms. So a lot of times a private equity firm will purchase, do an acquisition of a company, and they're looking to make an exit in say 3 to 5 years, right? And they're doing the diligence. They see there's no infrastructure around HR, their costs are sky high. So we will work to sort of level set, if you will, and put that infrastructure into place. So that way, when they're looking to make an exit, we have a client this year that was the private equity firm is actually our client as well. And the portfolio business was a client. And in the year and a half that we were partnered with them, we were able to set their people strategy. So we did like a talent review in 9box, compliance review, compliance audit and scrub, and really put performance management strategies into place to allow them to be an attractive business to sell. And they actually made an exit to $1 billion strategic partner in their market space. And that was a fantastic exit. So we do a lot of those great exit strategy. I mean, obviously we'd prefer to have a client for life, but if we can get a client from small to large and that's their desired business outcome, that feels really great. So that's one. I would also say we've spent a lot of time in the multi-location space. So restaurant groups, retail groups, dental clinics, healthcare clinics, because that tends to be a decentralized approach. You have a small corporate office and then you have all these locations. You don't need an HR business partner in each location, right? That's a hefty cost to the business. So how do you professionalize and centralize that back office HR support? So we've had a lot of success with those multi-location groups as well. So we look at our sweet spot as 10 to 150 employees or multi-location with 10 to 150 employees at each of the locations. And we've had some really great success allowing those leaders, whether it's an acquisition scenario or a multi-site scenario, focus on whether it's growth of their business or it after now COVID surviving. Some businesses have actually thrived, we've seen. So they've pivoted their business so quickly, or like there's a need for their business and they've seen growth that they didn't have the infrastructure to support. Maybe that wasn't their plan. So really allowing them the time to focus on those initiatives and get out of the people initiatives is where we've seen the most success and the most value add.
Great examples. The one that resonated right away when you were talking about the private equity space, it is not uncommon for private equity firms or VC groups to drop in an EOS implementer into a portfolio or a new portfolio company, because that's one of the fastest ways to get organization in the business.
Yeah.
Root out some of the waste, identify the gaps. It's really about a growth strategy play, but also an efficiency play. So I can definitely see where those two could work in concert together. And so EOS has been shown to increase valuation in portfolio companies as they prepare to sell, because well-run companies sell for a higher return.
Absolutely. And we have a couple clients in both of them are in growth mode, different industries. One is a marketing industry, one is more automotive marketing, and they both implemented EOS and it's changed the game in their organization as well. And we partner with them great on it because we understand it.
Absolutely. Well, I enjoy the relationship we've got with EmPower, and certainly can't wait to make some connections there for clients as well.
I appreciate it.
So any other parting words or anything else you wanted to share as we wrap up here today?
I don't think so, Kelly. I think what I would offer the audience is that, we get a lot of questions around what are the top challenges that SMBs are seeing right now. And the fact is that the number one challenge we see right now is around engagement. But in reality, if you dig deeper, it's around mental health, how we're supporting the employees of these businesses during this time, during COVID. People have been forced to sit with themselves, and it's obviously impacting how people are performing and showing up every day. Surviving or thriving is an example I gave. Cybersecurity has been a major theme that we've seen this year as well. And the fact is again, while we focus on HR priorities within an organization, we truly do celebrate the successes of all of our clients. We want to see them grow. We want to see them succeed. We do become an extension of their teams. Our nonprofit groups, we spend a lot of time with, certainly, and helping them as well. So it's been a lot of fun. 2020, I think people are like, oh my God, we want 2020 to be over with. But the fact is that a lot of great things have come out of this year as well. And we've enjoyed it. So I appreciate the time today. But no, those are the top three things that we've seen really be prominent this year.
It's good to keep those in mind. Sometimes those don't necessarily rise to the top of our radar, and they're so critical and important as leaders. Well, thank you for being our guest today, Jen. I so much appreciated it. I love that your organization runs on EOS. That's an extra benefit. So I wish you a wonderful season and can't wait to see you in person sometime, hopefully soon.